Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to my opinion piece on the latest Board of Supervisors meeting, which was held on April 27th, 2020. I'm a little late on this for a number of reasons. We have a lot of things happening. Of course, COVID-19 is a good excuse, but it was more so my involvement in listening and writing about the recent request by Pennsylvania American Water Company to raise our rates. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So, as you watch this video of the meeting, if you've already seen it, I want to remind you about something that our leader of the supervisors, the chairman of the board, Mr. David Speece, who made a comment in the very beginning of the meeting saying that they were going to review agenda items and only address business critical items and table everything else. Well, that idea flew right out the window as soon as they addressed the first item on the agenda, which was over a 7-minute discussion of the survey concerning a community center. I don't see how that's business critical. If you do, please contact me and explain to me how that's business critical. But it was a survey that was taken pre-COVID-19. Many things have changed. And for some reason, it was critical that this be presented to the township without anyone being there to ask questions. So I question the reasons for that and whether it was business critical. And basically what they're trying to do is get across to us that this is something that the community really wants. But if you think about it, you look at the statistics that they're discussing, less than 5% of the community responded to this survey. In fact, 4% of their respondents, there was under 1,000 people that responded. We've got over 25,000 people in the community, and over 20,000 of them are over the voting age, at the voting age or over. So when the survey that they're trying to sell us says that there's an overwhelming support for the community center, it's just not a fact. And since Vanderlane and Granger have left, their ability to create narratives that draw us in and make it believable to us has diminished. So my interpretation of this is exactly the opposite. And first I'd like to mention to the 3 new supervisors that this item, this community center, is one of those items that the community, I think, has felt is related to the former regime of Vanderlane, Granger, Crusadus, and let me add Dave Speece into that as well, and the plans that they had concocted in a previous year or so. The 3 of you, I believe, have been elected by this community to change the direction of these plans. And I hope you will consider the following facts, because you are the only ones that could change this. Now, the survey claims 982 respondents. This is less than 5% of our township voting public. And we know of those 982, they admitted in this survey that 4% has indicated they're not residents. So that's another 40. So that goes down to 942 respondents. But we can't be sure that those respondents actually told the truth that they aren't residents or they are residents. So this is kind of like a blind survey. There's no assurances unless you have addresses that you can verify, and they don't have that. So the survey also claims that 75% of the respondents are 656 which is much less than 3% of our whole community, feel that this is most important, or we must have it. That's not an overwhelming number of the community. What also they neglect to point out is that the survey shows us that about 18% of these respondents are very unlikely to use this facility. Now, I also looked at, as you'll see there, they have 9 programs that they had questions for. Well, I excluded one of them because the one program that they're reporting is none. And there's quite a few people that don't want any of these programs. But the survey shows that 7 of the 9 programs have less than 50% of the respondents in favor of those programs. That's not an overwhelming community support. And then the survey shows that 3 programs that do have over 50%, and one of them is 51%, the other one is 52%, they're youth-oriented sports programs, which the school provides at a cost to taxpayers of over $1 million a year. And so this takes up most of the year for the kids. Our own Parks and Rec Department, okay, the Township's Parks and Rec Department has in the past provided summer basketball, field hockey, tennis, lacrosse, and baseball. So this suggests that the community center is redundant. The survey's best supported program is for adult and health fitness. Adult health and fitness. This is adequately provided by numerous fitness centers in and around the township. For example, Planet Fitness at $10 a month is an excellent resource. So they want to build a community center that will compete with commercial activities that can provide the same services for much less than our government could do. So they claim that in the summary that everything supports that our community overwhelmingly wants this proposed center. And they go on to say that, well, they want more meeting spaces and so forth. Well, we have many meeting spaces at the Dunn Center, which I could tell you are underutilized now. And then they suggest some things about technology and green space. They're talking about a technology center, and you know how fast technology changes. It could cost us many, many, many dollars going forward, months or years at a time. And we could introduce the technology center in the Dunn Center. There's plenty of room there, as I said. And, I think the green space idea and what they're talking about with green space, at first I thought they were going to have open spaces, but they're talking about the green roof, the green building. This adds enormous construction costs, really enormous construction costs. So we're looking at adding a facility up at the Promenade that will cost us $2 to $3.5 million. And I believe that the whole project, and we'll talk about this later, is going to be north of $30 million to construct everything they want to do. So I'd like to recommend to the supervisors, the 3 new supervisors, that this project be tabled forever and dismissed as a viable project. We're not provided any cost data, construction costs, staff, salary, and pensions in an environment where we know that the township revenues are going to be severely impacted. And that impact could last for years. We receive over 50% of our revenue from real estate and earned income. Big portion of it from earned income, and that could never be recouped. We should be talking about this and not community centers at this time. So I hope you'll think about that, the redundancy involved in it, and maybe we should just drop the idea and let some private entity create the community center if it's economically viable. So there's a couple other things I want to talk about before you watch the video. And, the meetings are very disturbing to me because they'll say, as I mentioned, they want to address business critical items. Well, if you go through the agenda, there's quite a few items that are not necessarily business critical, but they're on there. And I can promise you that anything that's related to the golf course, that Mr. Spies, Mr. Gaultiere, and Mr. Staub will immediately approve. They might discuss it a little bit, but you can be guaranteed it's going to be approved and it's going to be considered business critical. I also want to mention that, when are they going to get serious about the food and beverage business and the banquet hall? They've done virtually nothing about it except talk about it, and we're way into the year. And I wish I was there. I wish I could be involved, but they promised that they would have citizens on these committees, the communication committee, the food and beverage committee, the golf course committee, but there's not one citizen, I believe, that's on any of these committees. I volunteered for these committees, and of course, foolishly, I thought that I would be welcome to be involved with my background in business, but not a chance. So we also have a situation, if you haven't watched the video, where they're planning on putting 100 new mobile homes somewhere around Walmart. Now we don't know, they're not telling us whether these are adult mobile homes or if they're going to be for family, because that has a significant impact on our school taxes if it's a family thing. But also there are other issues. We know that section of an intersection at Walmart is heavily impacted by traffic. And what we're looking at is seeing another 100 mobile homes with maybe 2 or 3 people in each one, so 200, 300 more cars. I'm not sure that we can sustain that. Now, before I get to the 2 biggest issues I want to talk about, I also want to mention something that happened near the end of the meeting in the supervisors' reports. There was a situation that Greg Gaultiere brought up, and I'm not going to go into great details about that. You can listen to it. But what concerns me a great deal is that during a supervisor report, they conducted business that was not on the agenda. And I think this is wrong. So, of course, our wonderful Mr. Crusadus, who's been known to do many things that aren't appropriate or ethical, made a motion to do something, do away with the fees that should have been thought about when they did the food thing at the Promenade. But they made the motion, and they, of course, approved it. At the last minute, Greg Gaultiere abstained without an explanation. But also, they conducted business that was not advertised on the agenda. And this is the problem that I think we should all consider. They're doing whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. What should have happened was someone should have spoke up and tabled this motion to put on the next agenda. Now, they can do whatever they want. They're going to pass this, and they did pass it, but they should be treating the public with respect and transparency. And obviously, Greg and Dave and Joe have made a commitment to transparency, yet in the end of the meeting, all of a sudden, they're conducting business that they didn't list on the agenda. This is not appropriate. And this is very, very poor leadership. And even if you don't have an opinion on this, at least you know about it now, and I think it's inappropriate for what they did. Now, one of the reasons why I'm late on this opinion piece is because of what happened with the Pennsylvania American Water. So all of you know, we sold the wastewater treatment plant. They told us that the monies that we would get from this would stabilize our tax base. And there would be corresponding breaks in taxes to reduce the impact, the cost to us, all right? Which never really materialized. They've approved a Homestead Act that will temporarily reduce our taxes a little bit over $100, but don't count on that ever being enacted in the future. I think this is the first and last time you'll see that. It'll be gone. They will not enact it next year. But what we're seeing is that according to Pennsylvania American Water, that we can expect the average water bill. So people might pay less. People who have a higher water bill, like families, large families, yards that get watered and so forth, we're going to have a much higher bill. But the average, what they give an example for, indicates that in 2021, starting in January, your annual bill for 2021 will increase by $450 additional water and sewer expenses. And then in 2022, according to the rates they're requesting from the PUC, you can add about another $100 on that in 2022. So I want you to remember there's two members still on the board who voted to sell the wastewater treatment plant, told us that it was going to be great, it was going to be neutral cost to us, but you're finding out much, much differently. 2021, your bill's going to go, the average bill will go up $38 a month for water and sewer combined. So Dave Speece, you can look at the videos from talking about anything about the wastewater treatment plant. As far as I could tell, he never spoke up for or against, but he always voted with those who wanted to sell it every single time. And then we have Mr. Cusatus, who told us that things will be great. We can't afford it. We would have higher costs if we kept it, and that our costs will be spread over all the other facilities that Pennsylvania American Water has. Well, he never bothered to also explain that the costs from their other facilities will be pushed on us as well. And not only that, but unlike the township owning it, we're not in it to make a profit. Pennsylvania American Water has a minimum profit motive of 6%. So right there, boom, you know you're going to pay 6% more. But it's been an astronomical increase prior to the sale, and now a year after the sale, it's a huge increase for all of us. It's devastating. And you should keep it in your mind, Speece and Cusatus. They're the two guys. Putting it mildly, I would say they misled us. If you wanted my own personal opinion, they blatantly lied to us in order to sell the wastewater treatment plant. Now, why? Why would they do that? Why would this plant was making $3 to $4 million a year after servicing the debt? So they had plenty of money for maintenance. Not only that, but we had $7 million in a CD that matured in 2019 that was also available for debt reduction or maintenance. So my contention, my opinion is that if we took good care of the wastewater treatment plant, we would have the lowest sewer rates on the East Coast for at least 2 decades, minimum. And then later on, if we needed to sell it, we could sell it for a very much more appreciated price. But that didn't happen. And why didn't it happen? Well, Speece and his co-conspirators, Cusatus, Vanderlane, and you can see on next door, I listed all the supervisors. Their plan was to get money. And Simone Collins pointed out that this was the most valuable asset we had because they wanted to start implementing the development program for Exeter Township. And that's available at exeterunited.com. You can download it and read all the pages on what they're going to do. It's absolutely scary when you see what it is. And so they needed this money, and they're telling us there's $40 million left. We sold the plant for $94 million. There's $40 million left. And this is all going to go into the development of the Promenade. What is the Promenade? Well, they're going to build separate buildings for the police, for the fire department, for EMS and the fire police, for the administration building and engineering. And then they want to put a community center in there as well. I've been an accountant and a financial guy for over 40 years. And I saw the RFP. The RFP is a request for professional services. And it was sent out to the architects in late 2019. So they already have some of the information which they aren't sharing with us at this time. But my estimate is to do everything they want to do with their associates, consultants, and eventually the contractors that they already have picked out to award contracts to. This is going to cost us north of $30 million. And I anticipate with change orders, other problems that they're going to encounter, that the whole $40 million that we have, it's gone. We can't afford this project. It's outrageous. It's like the dreamland of Granger and Vanderlane and Crusadus. There goes the reason why they claim they sold it, to stabilize our tax base, because once all this money is invested and they've built this new infrastructure, we're going to have to maintain it. And I'm not sure that we have enough money to actually complete the project. We may end up going out, and you might hear this in a couple of years, to sell bonds to complete the project and other issues that they want to build. They also want to build a waterfront community. And you'll see all that in the development plans that you can see at my website. But we're going to run out of money. And I predict that next year, the Homestead Act will not be re-implemented. That's a one-time hook to get everybody feeling great that, okay, we're selling the wastewater treatment plant, but we're getting this break. It's only temporary. They have to renew it every year. So don't count on that next year. It's doubtful. And then you'll see taxes rise, maybe in 2022, 2023, and then you'll hear about the ideas about selling bonds and raising money to either finish that project or continue with other projects. But we have a fairly large investment that needs to be made in the Reading Country Club. The main building needs a lot of work. I think we're looking at $2 to $4 million investment. Couple that with the fact that although they say that we have a $3.8 million surplus in our budget this year, that's completely erroneous. They're lying to you. And I've proven that. If you go look at my 16-minute video where I show our finance director, Mrs. Savage, telling us that we have this $3.8 million surplus, saying it several times in several meetings. And then she's asked a question by one of our private citizens on where's the money coming to replace the Homestead Act taxes that they cut out, almost close to $1 million. And she explains that they balanced the budget with sewer fund money. And I figure that our deficit in this budget was like $2 million, where she's saying it's $3.8 million surplus. So why would we need sewer money to balance the budget if we had a $3.8 million surplus? The answer to that question is we don't have a $3.8 million surplus. She is incorrect. She misinterpreted the information. She's not experienced enough to be our finance director. The Board of Supervisors have backed her up on this. They've refused to answer the questions. They scheduled a meeting where they were going to talk about the surplus, and quickly, when they realized they couldn't prove it, they actually went out and looked at the previous results of our operations and never talked about the 2020 budget. So we're in big trouble here. I mean, this is a huge problem. It's not going to go away, and it's going to get worse. For those of you that are upset about the sewer rate increases, which are really out of our control now, over 15 months ago, I raised the alarm about this, and very few people joined me or tried to do anything about stopping it. And frankly, it was probably too late to stop Granger and Vanderlane and Casadas and Spies from selling it. But the Promenade project, we might be able to stop. But you've got to wake up, folks. This is your community. They haven't even bothered to hold a town hall meeting so that we can give them our input on this. Tell them whether we want it or we do not want it. Personally, my opinion is I don't want this. We don't need it. There's other things that could be done to prevent this huge investment in what's really government buildings and government accommodations. And we could shrink a lot of things, particularly in the administration area where they tripled the head count. Everybody's got an assistant. Life is good if you work for Exeter Township. You never have to worry about anything here. You can have affairs in the office and get away with it. You can work from home and no one monitors you. You get big raises. I mean, if you take the management of our township, it's a rather long list. We've posted it somewhere on my website, exeterunited.com. But these managers combined are making over $1.1 million a year as of their 2020 salaries. That's 10% of our budget. And that's not everyone. This is just the management. So we've got a lot of other employees. So I would say that we're sucking up a good 15 to 20% of our budget just in paying a lot of people, some of them to do nothing, some of them that are severely, really not qualified to do what they do. And soon we'll hire a very expensive manager, probably give him a car. We won't even require him to live in the township. He could be another Granger clone. We won't know because we're not going to find out until after they make the decision. But I'd like to get everyone to focus in on this Promenade project because it's going to destroy this community. There's no way that we can build all that they want to build. And I'm going to have a video very shortly which will give you a link to look at the RFP, which is the request for professional services from the architects. And you can see the things that the Board of Supervisors are asking the architects to plan for and cost out. And I think you'll agree with me that it's going to be very, very expensive. So I have other plans that could reduce that expense, and it could preserve the 40 million or close to the 40 million that we have, so that we have for many, many years, maybe several decades, we could stabilize our tax base. But that's not their plan. Their special interest groups that are backing them want to start getting their hands on that. We've got over 50 million in the bank. And I believe the special interest groups want to start getting their hands on that money. None of our supervisors are smart enough to conceive this plan. I've spoken with all of them for over a year. I have assessed their mental abilities, their background, their character, their experience. And quite frankly, if you know what I know, you would be very frightened. And you should be frightened. Because if you think the water bill has escalated out of control, when we've spent all the sewer money, because the sewer money is the answer to all of our problems. That's why they don't have to explain the budget right now. All the gaps are filled up with sewer money. But when that sewer money is gone, where are they going to get the money to run this township? The answer is simple. They're going to raise your taxes exorbitantly, and they're going to borrow money, which we're going to have to pay the interest on and the principal on those bonds. And they'll slowly go away to wherever else they want to go. Mr. Joe Staub has a home in Virginia. Mr. Gaultiere has a home in somewhere in the Carolinas, as well as Dave Speece in the Carolinas and Florida. Mr. Casadis has indicated on Nextdoor that 2023 he doesn't plan on running again because he's moving to Florida. So, and I don't doubt this, because I think that when everything plays out, they're not going to be your favorite people in this township. And they're going to want to leave because they're going to put a lot of pressure, and it's going to destroy this community and change it forever. And we'll have these great, beautiful, monumental buildings to attest to their stupidity. They're not leaders. They don't know what they're doing. With COVID-19 and the reduction in revenue, all these projects should be put on hold, but they're not. They continue to try to conduct business in these virtual meetings. It's easier for them because none of us can attend the meetings personally and ask questions. So I'm urging you, if you're going to be here after 2023, you should get involved. You should tell these supervisors, based on your opinion and the information I've given you and more information coming, maybe you agree with them. But if you don't, you need to join our group to try to stop this and bring some sanity back to our community. We're not being represented by our elected officials right now. And it's very disappointing because one of the supervisors, Michelle Kircher, she's the only one who's working on our behalf. She sees the same types of problems that I see because I've discussed them with her. But the Boys Club, Dave Speece, Mr. Casadis, Mr. Staub, and Mr. Gaultiere, they see things differently. They continue to implement the programs that we so much wanted to change, and that's why they got voted in. But unfortunately, Mr. Gaultiere and Mr. Staub decided to join Speece and Casadis. So here we are, struggling to try to stop the mismanagement of our township. And I think, once that $40 million is gone, it's gone forever. We don't really have any other assets that we could sell off and get the kind of money that we received from the sewer plant. So it's very, very poor management. It's very, very nearsighted. And to top it off, they all proclaim transparency, but you can't talk to these people. Prior to Dave Speece taking chairman of the board seat, the rule was you get the comment for 3 minutes, and if at the time when Casadis was the chairman, if he liked you, you could even go on for as long as 10 minutes. But with Mr. Speece, you can see his rules. They're written right before the agenda. 3 minutes or less, 3 minutes or less, and he gets to decide. So we have a serious problem. I hope that you'll consider my opinion here and enjoy the video. Make sure you have a barf bag handy And I'm always willing to hear your comments. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Very good. I'd like to call to order the April 27th, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. John Casadas.
Here.
Joe Staub.
Here.
Greg Galtier.
Here.
Michelle Kurter.
Here.
And Dave Speece is here. Format-wise for the public is very similar to last meeting, the last virtual meeting. The Board of Supervisors will consider tabling any non-business critical items on the agenda for the purpose of the public, for the reasoning that the public's not able to attend in person. And in some of the discussion, some things are very time sensitive that we must take action on, but we'll address that as we get to each action or each item. So let's start with presentations.
All right. Let me just
From survey results.
share that here. Can everyone see it okay?
Yes.
Right, perfect. So I'm just going to briefly cover the results. I did present these to the board back in October of 2019. We sent the survey out in early September. It went live. And I'm just going to briefly cover it. The topic of the survey was the Promenade Shopping Center and potential municipal complex and community center. So we ended up with 982 responses. The survey was 23 questions long. It took just about 7 minutes to complete. And we had responses via, people got the survey via the website, email, social media, and we had paper copies that were available in the Township building and at the Exeter Library. Just some brief demographics of the respondents to the survey. 96% identified that they were residents of the Township. Just over half of the respondents identified as being in the 35 to 54 age group, 67% identified as being female, 51% of the respondents indicated that they had an annual household income of $100,000 or more, and 89% identified as being white or Caucasian. So one of the questions that I wanted to cover, of the 982 responses, 63% indicated that they never visit the current Township building, 35% indicated that they visit somewhat often, and just 1% indicated that they visit very often. And that's pretty much in line with what we expected to see from that response. Of those who indicated that they do visit the Township building, the most popular departments are the tax collector, the Parks and Recreation Department, and General Administration. We asked a question about Board of Supervisors meetings just to gauge general attendance, even though we all come to the meetings, so we have a general idea of that, but 82% indicated that they've never attended a board meeting. Less than 2% indicated that they attend board meetings very often. Maybe this format will change that, though. In regards to a municipal complex itself, the respondents, 75% of respondents said that a community recreation center was fairly important or a must-have to them. 71% said community meeting space was fairly important or a must-have, and 67% said that advanced technological capabilities were fairly important or must-have. And the next most important thing that people rated was having green space at the facility. And the advanced technological capabilities that we're talking about were having Wi-Fi in the building, a computer lab available, and just some background on that question. We added that in because the library had expressed to us that the computers at their facility are often full, and that's one of their most popular things. So we thought we'd see how the community feels if they feel like there's a need for additional space for something like that for people who don't have a computer at home. So 67% of those who responded to our survey indicated that they were either likely or very likely to utilize a community recreation center should we have one. And those who indicated that they were likely or very likely to use a community center, these were some of the things that we asked what people would like to do with the facility. And the most popular were youth social activities, youth sports programs, and adult health and fitness programs. So we wanted to ask a question as well about community meeting space. So people had indicated that they were interested in community meeting spaces. So we added a question in just to sort of see, to try to gauge the size of these groups and how many of these groups there really are in the area that would be interested in using them. Because we know what we see at some of our other areas, and we had an idea. But 19% of those who responded to the survey identified as being members of a community group that they thought would use a community meeting space. And most of them indicated that they meet on a monthly basis or less, and most are small groups having about 10 members or less. So just a summary of the questions that I covered. Of those who responded to the survey, so of those 982 respondents, they did support the addition of a community recreation center. They indicated a desire for a community meeting space, and they called for active opportunities for the township seniors, adults, and youth. And some of the more popular things that they were looking for were technology and having green space at the facility.
Excellent. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome. And this is available on the website as well.
Good reminder. That was sometime last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think it was September, October of last year.
Yeah. Yep. I think it was October that the initial presentation was made. Now, I did make that initial presentation before all of the results were in. We had made the call then to leave the survey open a little longer, so I updated these numbers to reflect the additional respondents that we had, but the data didn't really change from the initial presentation.
Very good. Thank you. Public comments. Are there any comments on agenda items that were sent in?
Yes, we have one. And for those who maybe were not here last week, I'm going to do the same that I did. I'll have the computer read this public comment. And I will tell you guys, so this is it's an agenda item, and it is in regards to the community center. It just says community center. Looks like it's in regards to the presentation. And it is from David Hughes.
I am not sure why this item is on the agenda tonight, considering our current emergency. This survey suggests our community overwhelmingly support this community center. My interpretation is exactly opposite of that evaluation. I speak to our 3 new supervisors. This is one of those items that the community has felt is related to the former regime of Vanderlaan, Granger, and Cusatas and the plans they have presented. The 3 of you, I believe, were elected to change the direction of these plans. I hope you will consider these facts. The survey claims 982 respondents. This is less than 5% of our township voting public. The survey claims 75% of respondents, 696, or less than 3% 0F community, feel this is most important or must have. The survey also claims, but not discussed, that 18% unlikely or very unlikely to use this facility. The survey shows that 7 of the 9 programs excludes none. Less than 50% of the respondents are in favor. The survey shows that the 3 programs that do have over 50%, 151%, 152%, are youth-oriented sports programs, which the school provides at a cost to taxpayers of over $1 million a year. Our own Parks Rec Department has in the past provided basketball, field hockey, tennis, lacrosse, and baseball, suggesting the community center is redundant. The survey's best supported program is for adult health and fitness. This is adequately provided by numerous fitness centers in and around the township. For example, Planet Fitness at $10 a month is an excellent resource. The summary does not support the statement that our community overwhelmingly supports this proposed center. Meeting spaces are available at Dunn Center and are underutilized now. Suggesting technology and green space issues, I cannot grasp where your thinking is going with this. This was a blind survey, and as such, we cannot know if respondents were from outside our community. I recommend to the 3 new supervisors that this project be tabled and dismissed as a viable project. We are not provided with any cost data, construction, staff, salary, and pensions in an environment where we know township revenues are going to be severely impacted. We receive over 50% of our revenue from our e-taxes and earned income. We should be talking about this and not community centers at this time.
That's the end of the comment.
Very good. Thanks, Laurie. Any comments from anybody?
Nope.
Nope, nothing from me.
So I'd like to thank Dave for his comment.
Wonderful comment.
Okay, regular approvals, minutes of the April 13th, 2020 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for April 13th, 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just think you did a nice job with them. I know it wasn't easy probably doing it from a video like that, but appreciate the effort.
Yeah, fully agree. Fully agree there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Disbursements, April 27th, 2020. I believe Jen received some queries on some of the items and gonna enlighten us on those.
I am, Dave. Thank you. A couple of the disbursements I would like to go over. There's a disbursement for $3,600 for Axon Enterprises. Those were for police tasers. There are 2 invoices under Black Cipher, both for $3,000 each. The one is our current invoice for April. The other one was for a September 2019 invoice. We actually realized with the vendor that we had never received that invoice, so we are paying that past due invoice. Exeter Fire Department, we are reimbursing them for their incentive payments. Usually happens quarterly, and just the explanation of the incentive program. The fire department maintains the incentive program, but the payments are based upon number of fire responses, training hours, and also staffing for both QRS, which is quick response, driver, crew, and officer in charge. We have 2 disbursements for McMahon Associates. They are the traffic engineers working on the Perkiomen Avenue walkability project. These are for engineering and production costs. They are not reimbursable, but they go towards our match for the over $2 million in grant funding that we received for this project. Soda Sunny Lawn Care, there's an invoice for about $3,800. This is for our mowing contract. Soda Sunny mows all of the township-owned properties, including township building, parks, detention ponds, etc. And there was also an invoice for Weichel Sportswear for $1,025. This was for some raincoats and polos for some of the more resident-facing staff to use on their jobs, and this was a budgeted item.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Very good, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the April 27th disbursements.
Second.
Any further discussion on the disbursements? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Subject to
Ayes have it.
Hey, Dave,
Yep.
is there anything that needs, this is really a question for Jen, is there anything that needs to be ratified from a disbursement standpoint? Were there any?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
We did disbursements at last meeting, and we ratified the March 23rd. At the April 9th meeting, we ratified the March 23rd disbursements for the meeting that was canceled. So I think we're all caught up then.
Great. Thank you. Just making sure.
Good.
Yep.
Treasurer's report for March 2020.
I move that we approve the treasurer's report for March as submitted.
I'll second that.
And yeah, it's add subject to audit as well to that one. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report?
Well, Mr. Hughes had commented on his public comment, and I do agree with part of what he said about the revenue we're going to receive. I know that I had emailed Jen earlier today, but I believe there's going to be some areas that are probably going to be down 10 to 30%. Business privilege tax is going to be down. Obviously, earned income tax is going to be down. I think transfer tax is going to be down. Appraisers can't even get inside houses right now. Even some of the stuff that we might have collected from tax claim, if people are already in trouble, the odds are they're not going to be able to pay the stuff that's past due. So I believe that we're going to have to take a closer look to what the budget looks like. I know that we already planned on using some funds to balance the budget. I believe that we're going to need to dip a little bit deeper. So I think everyone needs to prepare for that. And then I believe every municipality and state is going to be in the same boat.
Yeah, Jen, you already put together a preliminary document that was pretty good. Kind of
Impact.
hit all the impact points.
Yeah.
Those are the three big buckets.
Yep.
Right. Clarence and I sat in on a Zoom conference call with the Center for Excellence in Local Government through Albright, where they had some people on, some experts speaking about each of these different areas and the impact. Everyone was, of course, concerned about property tax. I think property tax is going to be the least of our worries, and the experts all agreed. We collect about 90% of our property taxes during the discount period. Most of that comes from people who escrow, of course. We are looking tonight to extend the flat period to help those people who may fall into that penalty period and help them maybe make some payments. But the real discussion was on earned income tax. Earned income tax is a little over 30% of our revenues. Mm-hmm. They are anticipating that the September and December payments that we received, which are payments for the second and third quarters of this year, are going to be drastically impacted, and they're at approximating about 30% down because, of course, the unemployment rates are so high. So we're going to have to watch earned income, as Joe said, transfer tax. If realtors continue to be classified as non-life sustaining, the market is just kind of fall apart there. We had some decent numbers in March and April because those were transactions that were already kind of in the pipeline and they were allowed to settle. But at this point, May is much lower and much less than May prior year that we looked at. So that's going to be a bit hurtful. Mm-hmm. And business privilege, depending on the types of businesses that are closed and how long they have to remain closed, we have yet to see where business privilege will go, but my approximation is down probably 10 to 30%, which could be as little as $60,000 and as much as up to $180,000.
It's really going to have to impact the 2021 budget too. We're going to really have to do our homework and make sure we tighten our belt for spending.
Yeah,
Agreed.
we agree. And to your comments, Joe, I think the important thing to point out here is, we're going to be down on revenue. And when you're looking at a long-term project, in my opinion, that's 2, 3, 4 years away. The one thing is not to get lost in in my mind, in the short-sighted impact. If you don't include a consideration to do something in the future, it will not be included. Just scoping it out doesn't mean it will be included, but at least you have that option 2, 3 years from now if things recover. So
we need to keep the conversation going for many of these things, but again, we don't need to commit the funds.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
information gathering, which doesn't cost us any money.
Correct.
So we had a first and a second, and any further comments there? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Discussion on the wastewater, under unfinished business, discussion on the wastewater treatment plant sale proceeds. Not really having a discussion here. We talked about this last time, and it was just a summary page of everything that's been talked about and presented in the past. It was putting it in one place. so that everyone was on this page, the same page, and understand where we're at, what we spent, what it was spent on, and what's there for the future. At the last meeting, we said this would be posted, and it was posted the day after the last meeting on April 14th. Merely we're putting it here and posting it again for those that missed that it was posted after the last meeting. That's the only purpose here. So I don't think we have any discussion here. It's just data, and just alerting the public that it has been posted for their review. Any comments from anyone else on it?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Very good. We'll move on. Discussion on the RFP responses for an architect for the Promenade Shopping Center. Recall that we had an RFP out to gather data as to what was possible at the site, what would need to be done, and to begin talking to architects for consideration of possibly choosing one. This was not about spending money. It was looking through a list of people that have responded to the RFP and choosing a few to tee up discussions and talk to them about the future. This was not about selecting the person that we may or may not work with in the future. So that's, I think, the background on this. Any comments from anyone else or ideas?
Well, I have comments. I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse. I think until we've established what we're going to do, that again we're spending money for no need because we don't know what the future is going to bring us right now, and we shouldn't go jumping into something that I don't even know if the residents I talked to, and one of the reasons they put me in here was because they didn't want that. So I would like to do another study or talk to the residents and find out what they really want. And I'm concerned about that intersection with the amount of cars, especially with the sheets there. And if they get apartments down on the lower part where the original path mark was, how's that going to turn for pedestrian walking? So I have some big concerns, and I think it's just too soon to call an architect in. I mean, that's my opinion. I've been through lots and lots of projects all over. And I think until we actually know what we're going to do, and I think we can still look at what you want to do, but I don't think it's a time to spend money until we know what the community wants.
Hey, Dave, my understanding is this would just be to discuss with the architects. There would be $0 spent, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Well, I know that I believe Clarence had some concerns about the actual facility, so maybe he could share on it. But as far as talking to them, there was some disparity in pricing. If we do go down the route of interviewing and just getting their take on it, I would take the low ones, but also would take one that's higher just to see if there's something missing from the equation. Because if you look at, I believe it was like, I forget if it was like 15, there was 3 that were significantly lower than the rest. I would recommend if we go that route, we would take those 3 and 1 more, just to make sure that there wasn't something different from services. But getting the information, I don't see any issue with it whatsoever. I wouldn't agree with Michelle. I would not commit to putting a penny out right now. But if it's nothing more than gathering information, I don't see where that would hurt.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. And also, I think there was one architect that Greg had experience with at Boyertown that I had confidence in from what Greg told me. So I think that's another one that we could add to the list, Joe, because Greg had experience from this architect. I don't know who it was, Greg, but maybe you could speak to it.
It was KCBA. They were one of the 3 low ones.
Okay, good.
I worked with them in a building project my last 2 years. And I found them very helpful. The primary, I only worked with a little bit. He was like in a backup role in my project, but everything he did for my project was good as well. The one thing I would say about this, and I know we want to talk to the residents and so forth, but I don't know how you can make a decision if you have no idea what anything is going to cost. If a community center is going to cost $500,000 or it's going to cost $10 million, I think that matters. And pulling these numbers out of thin air, people aren't going to know unless they know how much things cost, and that's where an architect's going to help you.
Well, so who says that's the place to put all of this?
I'm not saying, I just used it as an example, Michelle.
I know, but I'm still saying you're sending an architect up there to look at this, and what kind of instructions is he going, are they going to take? What are you going to ask him to do?
Well, what my understanding is, and what we did in the building project is, we're going to first interview these and choose one, and then the second thing, we would be asking them to do some proposals, which is going to be simple costing of things. With our project, there were certain things that had to be done. We had 1963 mechanicals, we couldn't get parts for them. We were taping the heating system together. But then we had a bunch of other things that we wanted. So they gave us a bottom line price, and then they said, this is going to cost this much, this is going to cost this much, this is going to cost this much. And then when we made decisions based on the information we had. But we couldn't have made those decisions unless we knew how much they would cost.
Yeah, Michelle, we're going to tell them police, fire, a community center, highway department. That's the plan.
Without talking to these people and making a commitment to one of them eventually, they're not really going to give you any legitimate. They're not going to give the house away without something. They're not just going to stand there and spout all kinds of great numbers for you if you're not willing to give them a dime. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Like, for instance, the KCBA, I mean, we did a lot of checking on a lot of places. We must have went to 6-7 places over the last year. KCB built Limerick. They built the one in Montgomery. Presently, they're building the one in Whitehall Township, those township buildings. I know the chief can speak about Limerick's police department, how nice that got. But unless you make some kind of commitment and tell him what you want, he's not going to tell you anything without spending something. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, the first step of the process is to do an interview.
Yeah, you got to pick them out.
And we pick a group.
Right.
And then we go from there.
Right.
Yeah, in my mind, just to comment, again, it's kind of about the rate determining step here. You can wait till you're ready to do something, then you do the interviews and everything's 2 months later. This is stuff we can do that is going to be done at some point.
And let's face it, guys, we've been talking about this since January. I mean, I've heard it 6 months now, and we're still talking about it. Let's get it done.
The other thing,
you've had one back out, and you've had others ask, are you still doing anything? Because they're going to make commitments to someplace else. They're not going to overburden themselves with work, because no matter how hungry they are, they're not going to commit to doing more work than they can actually do.
Correct, because we just keep talking about it.
And I think the other point is about, we just can't bury our heads in the sand. There's a lot going on here, but we do have tenants there. We have some responsibility. We know the roof's not in good shape. If we do nothing and just wait, we're going to eventually get to a situation where we got to make a decision, and we will still have no data, no comments, no nothing. So,
well, you would have made a decision when you bought it or had something beforehand, not just spend the money and then try and come up and spend more of the money. The wastewater treatment plant that was the only thing that really made money in the township, and you sold our future away with that.
You're wrong, Michelle.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard for us here right now to kind of change the past. If anyone has any way to do that, we could do that.
And the Promenade the Promenade does have a plan, did have a plan. And it was,
Oh, you never showed it to us.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did, Michelle.
No, you didn't.
Anyway,
So
no need to argue that.
we've had
Michelle, you're wrong, Michelle. Go ahead, Dave.
We've had a lot of discussion here. Question is, we have these people, as Clarence said, one has dropped out, tired of waiting. Are we going to talk to anyone? Potentially, we're going to need an architect in the future. This is not about spending money. It's about having some interviews. During those interviews, it would be my impression that we would ask them that, hey, they know about the site. Do they have high-level thoughts what could or couldn't be done? We're trying to gauge parameters, but it would be my recommendation. Yeah. Anyone?
I was prepared to make a motion to interview the top three. Joe made a good point, though, in that having a fourth that was a higher cost to see why it was higher, or are we missing something? That I thought that was a good point, but I was comfortable with the first three because of my experience with KCBA.
Yeah, as long as KCBA's in there for you, Greg, I'm fine with it. When any other three you guys pick, as long as KCBA's in there as well, which I think they were. They were the low bid, one of the low bids you said.
Yeah, they were one of the three. They were one of the three, John.
I'm comfortable.
Actually,
I'm comfortable.
I believe I think the fourth, if I recall, and it's not open now, but I believe the fourth one was actually a Berks County based architect, if I recall.
Why I'm missing?
Was it Missing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that would be, I just think it would be a good idea to have that just to see if there could be something different, because it's a pretty big difference in price. Again, that's just what they're putting down. This is nothing more than the formative stage, and there would be not one penny spent. I think that's important.
Correct. In the future, the proposal, yes, was done.
Correct.
First two, but.
I'll make a motion that we interview the first three architects on the list, as well as that fourth architect from Why I'm Missing. That we have the administration set up interviews with those organizations.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is that Michelle opposed?
Yes, I'm opposed.
Opposed, that's 4-1. Alrighty. Adopt a short-term lodging ordinance. As I said, talking about critical business, we postponed this several times. The reason that this is here, and we're talking about it now, there is from a public hearing that was held back in February, there's a 90-day adoption time frame, and we're getting very close to that. I'll let Will maybe comment here, but I mean, this is going back and forth with the planning board with the comments we made. It's been reviewed several times. We've had several public discussions. And so, Will, do you have comments?
Yes, good evening. So this has been reviewed by the Township Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, I believe twice. We had a public hearing a few months ago. After that public hearing, there were some concerns expressed by a few of the realtor groups. I even had a sit-down meeting with one of the gentlemen from the realtor group, and I explained to him the zoning ordinance and what the township was trying to do with this ordinance. The township staff did not recommend any changes from what was presented, and we are requesting that the Board of Supervisors adopt this ordinance.
I know we've had quite a few discussions on here. We've had public comment. I know several of us have gone directly to Will and have asked questions, and I think the Planning Commission did a lot of work on this, and it's a difficult one to try to get everything perfect in order, but I think we got to a point to where it's gone back and forth, and Planning Commission and the people that have been involved in preparing this are fairly confident that this is a pretty solid ordinance.
So what's our timing at? Are we getting close to the 90-day?
Yeah, we're just about there.
Okay.
It needs to be, I need some sort of direction tonight, whether you do not want this ordinance, what changes you would like to see, or adoption would need to be had tonight.
Hey, John, this is a zoning ordinance amendment, so the 90 days doesn't strictly necessarily apply, though you shouldn't, it's more of a reasonable promptness standard. You shouldn't wait any longer, though, if you do want to Will's point, if you do want to go forward with this or not. You really, you probably need to make a decision, because it's, the hearing is close to 90 days ago, as I understand it.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Will, can you explain to everyone about the grandfathering, please?
Yes, Joe. So a pre-existing non-conforming use would be any current short-term lodging that is operating in the township, that is not within any of the permitted zoning districts. So the permitted zoning districts include the agricultural preservation, the rural, and the rural conservation. What raised the issue here, and why the township started putting together language to govern short-term lodging, was that there were several locations across the township within residential developments that were seeing some issues. Now, those locations that are currently operating would be permitted to continue to operate as long as they do not expand their use, and they would also have to follow the licensing procedures.
Okay. Yep. I know it's been discussed for, goodness, probably about 2 years now, and if this is what the community wants and we feel that it's enforceable.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we adopt the short-term lodging ordinance.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you, Will.
Good job, Will.
Yeah, very nice. I know this has gone, appreciate your patience. I know this one has been batted back and forth for a long time, and a lot of work you put into that. Under new business, consider approving the property tax relief resolution. Jen, were you going to comment on this one, or?
I can. So we sat on a conference call last week, as I had mentioned, and the county was a part of that. They have already passed their resolution to extend the flat rate period they've extended the deadline from June 30th to September 30th. So the penalty period is basically not being implemented after June 30th. The county has asked that the same resolution be passed by all local taxing municipalities. It will just make it easier for communicating to the residents, ease, and also to help with collections through their system. It's going to be difficult to collect two different amounts, basically, for county and for municipal tax. So this is a resolution waiving late fees through the end of September.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. No, I think this is a great, it's good that this is going through. I think it'll help quite a few residents. So yeah, I have.
Yeah, this is great. No, this is great. I'll make a motion to consider approving property tax relief resolution.
You're making a motion to consider approving or for approving?
Approving. I'm sorry, I read it off the thing.
I'll second it.
I will make a motion, yeah, I'll make a motion approving.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Very good. Next item, authorize the Cohen Law Group to negotiate the cable franchise agreement with Comcast. There's quite a bit of description there, which is very helpful for people to understand. This is a small part of the community that does have access to Comcast. This is a law group that negotiates a contract for a lot of municipalities, and by joining this action, which the deadline is here, we save a lot of money, and it's a 10-year agreement. So it's quite a savings for us than rather trying to do this on your own. Jen or anyone comments on that? Did I miss anything there?
I think it pretty much says it, speaks for itself. I mean, you got to do it today, or you're going to have to go it yourself. It's only going to end up costing you more. You're going to have to get an audit, you're going to have to get an attorney just to do the work, and then you're going to have to get a company to come in and audit everything. So until it's done, you'll pay more.
And Dave, Jen had provided some numbers. Thank you again, Jen, that the 10-year total for this could be about $335,000 in revenue, and we'd have to do a lot of this stuff anyhow. So I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I think the summary that we have on the notes here, it does not dictate which cable provider a resident should have. I know there was confusion there, nor does it require that a provider expand service to the area already served by the cable company. So those are the two things that perfectly said on the agenda. So thank you to the administration team for putting that there. I think it answered a lot of the questions that the residents had.
Very good description. So I have a motion.
I move to authorize the Cohen Law Group to negotiate the cable franchise agreement with Comcast.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Approved contract with Stratix to update our Sharepoint in the amount of $8,050.
Dave, I can explain
thanks, Will.
what Stratix is. So Stratix is a software company that will help us migrate our current SharePoint system, which currently houses all our content. This includes general correspondence, property files, land development and subdivision files. It's a large amount of data. I think like 60,000 documents are currently housed within SharePoint. SharePoint has since become outdated. I believe it's a 2010 application. What Stratix is going to do for us here, or proposes to do, is to migrate everything from our in-house server onto the cloud. It's an application hosted by Microsoft. The cost for the cloud is actually included. We currently pay for that with our business premium licenses that the township employees have. So the cost that is in front of you tonight is for the migration tool, and then the training and setup that Stratix is proposing to do.
Will, I have a question. Why can't the existing IT provider do this for us? Did we get a price from them?
I believe this is not really in their wheelhouse.
Okay.
We've had a couple issues with SharePoint lately, and we've received quotes from I believe 2 other firms to do this migration, and this was the best option, we believe.
The only concern I have, Dave, is we had history with Stratix in the past. They hired Eric Ardecki. they since had to get rid of him, obviously, but there's concerns with some of their issues. So I just want to make sure that we looked at other options besides Stratix. I mean, I'm going to vote no just because I have issue with Stratix, but you guys could proceed.
Well, two questions maybe, Will. One is, I didn't see it here, I forget. Is this a budgeted item?
Yes, I think it's, maybe Jen can explain a little bit. I think we have that budgeted in our tech fees.
Yeah, it's budgeted to come out of the capital fund.
And I guess the second part of that is, how time sensitive is this?
This is pretty time sensitive. So currently, this is a twofold issue. So currently our server that all the information sits on is a little outdated. I believe it's from 2008. That was a large reason why I came to you in January to migrate all the GIS data to the cloud. Now, the server that's outdated held all our GIS data and all our Sharepoint data. That's pretty much what its sole purpose was to do. So instead of spending, $7,000-$10,000 for a new server, we believe that this is the best option, and it's rather time sensitive because SharePoint is no longer supported. So if anything would happen, we wouldn't have the tech support, and then the server itself is kind of coming to the end of life here.
And Will, just one question. I know that last year, I believe it was in the third or fourth quarter, previously, not by you, but someone who's not with the township anymore had made the comment that it was not legal for us to be storing this in the cloud, which I know many of us questioned. So there is no issues as far as storing our information, because there are probably residents that are going to ask that question.
I'm not sure about that answer, Joe. I would have to maybe refer that to Sam or legal counsel.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't looked at, Joe, we haven't looked at that specific issue, but I'm not aware of there being any issue, so long as the data is appropriately secured. Storing something in the cloud just, by definition isn't, I'd be shocked if there's any issue with that. It would be the level of security that attaches to it. So, but we can, if necessary, if that's what the recommendation is by whomever you guys decide to bring in, if there's a concern about legality, certainly we can take a very quick look at it and get back to you.
Just so you know, there's no concerns of mine, Sam. I thought when the individual said it, I thought the person was nuts. Okay. But it was said in a public meeting, okay, and there was a conversation about it. So if there are people that are on this listening to this and they're questioning it, all of a sudden they're saying, "Ooh, what's the township doing?" I thought that the information that was provided was, quite frankly, BS.
Okay. All right. I will get you an email tomorrow, by tomorrow, Joe, that you can circulate as needed. One sentence.
Thank you.
You and I looking at each other when that statement was made, like what? Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve the contract with Stratix to update SharePoint in the amount of $8,050.
Second. One further discussion. I mean, Will, you have at least benchmarked, you checked with our IT department, it's not in their wheelhouse, but you're pretty confident that this is a very competitive price for this server?
That's correct. We had a similar quote just for migration, and I believe it was more than double what you're currently looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm a no.
John? Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. The Lincolnwood Community Expansion Traffic Impact Assessment Discussion. Will or Joe, I guess you're going to...
I can chime in. Just to give you an overview, the developer for the Lincolnwood Lakeshore Management presented a plan to the Planning Commission where we reviewed it as more of an informal sketch plan. And the Planning Commission had some comments, and they did a brief discussion at our last board meeting that we had at the Reading Country Club, just to inform the Board of Supervisors that they're working on this plan. As part of the subdivision land development process, they're required to do a traffic study because they meet the criteria based on the number of lots they're proposing. Our ordinance requires that the study area, which is the intersections that will be included in this traffic study, be approved by the Board of Supervisors. HRG, their traffic consultant, and also the consultant that's going to be preparing the land development plans, submitted to the township staff as well as the planning commission a transportation impact assessment scope. Essentially what this is, it was a short little report that included their proposed intersections that they were going to plan to study and the method of their whole procedure that they were going to follow. We reviewed these intersections and we made some recommendations to the planning commission that we include 7 intersections along Lincoln Road, since this is a main or a minor collector street which will have an impact with this development. And those intersections would encompass the Lincoln Road and Perkiomen Avenue, Lincoln Road and Ritz Avenue. There are 2 entrances which are labeled as Keystone Road North, Keystone Road South, the Lincoln Road and Walmart driveway, Lincoln Road Dairy Queen driveway, as well as the intersection of Lincoln Road and Lorraine Road. Their original proposal, they were just going to do a brief overview. However, we recommended to the township and the planning commission that they follow our ordinance, where they do a complete traffic study where they'll evaluate each intersection, determine what we call level of service, what's existing, and then evaluate that intersection again based on capacity, projected traffic, which is trip generations from the development, and look at accidents, the geometric review, volume, and so forth during the 3 peak hours, and then provide us an evaluation of each intersection and what proposed improvements could be made. This evening, the Planning Commission at our last meeting last Monday approved the scope of work for these 7 intersections, and we are looking for a motion by the Board of Supervisors if they're in agreement with this scope or if there's any other areas that they would like to discuss.
How many trailer parks is it, Joe?
It's one entire trailer park, but what they're doing is they're proposing to expand what they have is existing. And up on the plan, there was some discussion about a secondary access onto 422. That light shaded area that's next to Walmart, that parking area, the Planning Commission strongly urged the developer to at least engage in conversation with PennDOT to see if that secondary access can be installed, since it's subject to their approval, since it's a PennDOT road. We felt that it would be nice to have a secondary access, not only for emergency purposes, but to relieve some of that existing congestion that we're experiencing on Lincoln Road. If you may recall, when Walmart did their expansion, they were required to do some substantial widening. It's my opinion that intersection is probably already maxed out. I'm not sure how much more adjustment can be done to improve that. It might be at a saturated level, but having that secondary access may be an improvement to the road. We've always gotten complaints about queuing. Just the driveways, both the Walmart driveway and the Dairy Queen, have been problems. PennDOT has made some provisions by restricting right turn on reds to allow some gaps in the traffic for people who want to negotiate a turn, especially a left or a right onto Lincoln Road from the Dairy Queen business.
Thanks.
Very good. Thanks, Joe. So you said you're looking for a motion to require that traffic study to be conducted?
Yeah, it's a motion from the Board of Supervisors that they approve those 7 intersections and that it's in conformance with our SALDO section 330-47, which requires them to do a complete analysis of each of those intersections.
Joe, do you know how many, if there are going to be children down there, or is it just an adult?
No, not yet. Those questions were raised as far as pedestrians, something we're going to be looking into, sidewalk, once we get into the preliminary plan stage. Right now, what they did submit to us was just sketch. It was for informal submission, which means it could change. However, there was some discussions what we'll have as far as if it's going to be children or if it's going to be more of an adult active community. But that hasn't been mentioned at this time.
If there are going to be children, and there may be a lot of buses because of all the areas.
Yes.
I would suggest going out to Perkiomen Avenue.
Yes, that's a good point. That's something that's going to have to be included in our review of the traffic study, is if for pedestrians, for school buses, as well as any other public transportation that's currently operating in that area.
Yeah, right now you have the 2 bus stops, and there's not a lot of kids there, but, you know, it can definitely almost double. You never know.
Yeah, they're definitely proposing some more units. They do need to have waivers, and there'll be a substantial amount of environmental studies because of the impact of the creek, the wetlands. Our riparian buffer ordinance will be applicable to this development. They do have a lot of work to do, but it is a significant. It's not double, but it's not. I'm sorry, it's not twice. It's a good expansion, maybe close to 50% of what they already have. But they will require some waivers, especially with cul-de-sac length and a few other items. But I think they want to get the traffic study start to proceed with that and get the traffic data collection taking place.
Is there any way they can make the buses go in there?
That's something we can discuss.
That's something I think they should address. Because they do that at Laurel Springs, correct? Don't they?
Yes, a lot of the buses have been staying away from the major roads for that reason. And I think
Lincoln's terrible. I think they should see if there's some way they can.
No, I agree.
So buses, if for nothing else, the elementary anyway. So.
I think as long as their buses can safely negotiate in that development, I don't see why they can't have that. And that's something we can reach out to as well as a recommendation to the school.
Yeah, looking at their streets, I mean, they're going to have it. You can make a circle in there without having to go into a cul-de-sac. They won't go into a cul-de-sac, but
no, you're right, and there will be loops.
They can go around in a circle, so I think they should be. I don't know how you can do that. I don't know what you can do with that, but if they can be made to do it, I think you should force the buses to go in there.
I think it's something that we can address in our review of the traffic study and highly recommend that the school district have the school district involved, because they will need to be aware of this because of their properly scheduling enough bus transportation for the children, but as well as I think we can have some input as far as safety and so forth, and that's something I think we can look at as a township and make a recommendation to both the developer and to the school district.
Yep.
Hey, Clarence, I know that previously Rick Wegman and his team over at the district, with their programming that they have, they've changed different pickups and spots as.
Right.
So I don't think it will be an issue having them look at that. We can certainly address it with the current board and administration.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from the safety aspect.
I understand. No, and they will as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Thanks, everyone. I'll make a motion to approve the 7 intersection proposed traffic study.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Will. R.M. Palmer Warehouse time extension request. I think there's been a change here, Will, or?
Yes, Dave. So this has been on the books since about 2004. Last week, the township staff actually received a withdrawal letter from the developer. So I'm just asking that the Board of Supervisors make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Second. Joe got it.
Joe had it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Very good, thanks. Ayes have it. Approve lease terms with First National Bank for the gas riding mower. I mean, I think this was a discussion whether or not to use funds. This is a term for, it says lease, but it's actually, I believe, Jen can explain, but I think it's a 5-year purchase where you own it at the end of the 5 years. And whether or not, you know, this is the, well, a couple questions, I guess, whether or not this is a best way to go about it. I guess the first question is, how business critical is this when this is due, and any questions anyone else has here?
I'm just going to make a recommendation that we use the money in the equipment fund. We're not earning a heck of a lot of interest on the money that's sitting in there, especially as low as rates are. Paying 4% plus some additional fees. This is the piece of equipment I believe we authorized. I think it's going to take a month or a month and a half to get in, but I mean, to pay it over a term when the money's sitting in the bank in the equipment fund, that would be my recommendation, but that's just my thought.
That's what I would agree with Joe on that.
Was this in the budget, Dave, last year that you and I approved?
Yes.
It's budgeted in the golf funds, not in the equipment funds.
Yeah, it's in one of the budgets. So I think the proposal, the way it was, you know, there were 3 pieces of equipment that were in there last year, and it was done as I think it was put in the budget as either a lease or a payment scale. So whether or not you capitalize it or whatever, and how you move it per year onto the golf fund, it is, yeah, in my mind, it is in the golf fund budget. It's a question whether or not you're using dollars versus taking a loan.
And what's the cost?
It's a 4% interest rate.
So the total cost of the equipment.
I think it was
$32,981.
Yeah, I'm okay with the equipment fund for that amount.
I heard of Joe. You made a motion. Greg, you second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just checking. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Authorize advertisement of request for proposal for the Daniel Boone Homestead Master Plan. I guess he had a question here again. Let others chime in as whether or not it's, again, business critical or not.
Michelle, you're on the committee. What do you think for Daniel Boone?
Well, we have a year to use the monies. So I don't think it's business critical right now. I mean, we can start the grant, we can look it over and then decide when. I don't know. I haven't seen the grant yet.
Dave, if I may.
Yep.
So the grant, the process in developing the master plan will take about a year. You know, if the Board of Supervisors would authorize to advertise the RFP, you know, it adds about a month on there to advertise, you know, before we get any proposals back. We're not quite sure if DCNR, who we have the grant through, would be willing to extend the grant monies. Obviously, with the situation that the entire world is in, you know, we don't really know what the summer holds. But I would like to see this RFP authorized.
And you already have 25,000 of it, correct?
Yeah, we're holding.
Yeah, I think this is something that I think we could get through tonight. It's not mission critical, but it's not anything that we need the public there. That's, you know, I think it's something simple enough that we should get moving on it.
I agree.
Very, very good point, Will, about, yeah, we're authorizing advertisement here to collect data again, not to go forward.
I'll make the motion to authorize advertisement of RFP for the Daniel Boone Homestead Master Plan.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Will, thanks a lot for clarifying that for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Will.
Challenging us, thank you. Update on the Community Communications Committee.
So Laurie and I have been talking. She she formatted what a electronic newsletter would look like via email, and it looked very good, I thought. So now she's in the process, and correct me if I'm wrong, Laurie, she's in the process of working with our technology company to make sure that we can take the email addresses that we get from the website where people sign up and have them go to MailChimp, who we used to do the sample newsletter. Am I right on those, Laurie?
Yep, that's correct. I'm just waiting on the website company. It's actually the company that runs our website. They're just doing the back end work to connect so that when people put their email address into the little place on the front page that says sign up for our e-newsletter, that it will connect to MailChimp, and that way we can send it out that way. So I'm just waiting on that. I would expect that to be done in the next couple days.
So once we're confident that will work, then we'll be ready to start pushing people to sign up for the e-newsletter on the website. If you look at the website, there at the bottom of every page, there's a place to sign up. And a year and a half ago, whenever we got the website, I signed up. Never have gotten anything. I think it's looks very bad when we say sign up for this and then we don't have anything. So our goal was to try to get people to sign up, then put out something like an update on COVID-19 as a community service, and then possibly have a first newsletter in June, depending on if we have stuff to report.
Yeah, just make sure we... Go ahead, Greg.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't abuse it in terms of make sure we just get good communication out there and not just keep sending things to send things. Like the month is fine, I think. We shouldn't just keep sending stuff out. We just got to be sure we're strategic about it.
Yeah, we're looking at a monthly newsletter, and emergency communications. Like when, the whole COVID-19 thing hit, we had no way to communicate with community in a quick manner. So that's what we're looking at with that. So that's the status of that. And then the other thing is the electronic marquee. As in commute, David suggested Amity. He had mentioned their marquee. And talked with Troy Bingaman. He emailed me. He watched the meeting and he saw that. He sent me some information that they paid about $19,000 in 2016. They have a double-sided LED. They went with single color rather than full color because of their sign ordinance. So I asked Will to send me our sign ordinance, so I have to take a look at that. They handle the electric and pouring the pad. And then Clarence had given me some information. I guess you guys looked at this in 2017.
You've been looking at this a long time. Another 3 years we've been looking at this.
We've been looking at this. Oh my God. Michelle was in office the last time.
Well, I spoke with Matt Freewald with Bartush Signs today. He's going to give me updated information. Back in 2017, the last time you got a quote, it was $30,659, and that was 41 inches by 8 feet 3 inches in a V-shaped sign at the library, so you could kind of angle it so that both sides would be able to see it fairly well.
And you have to remember a lot of the money, not a lot of the money, but a nice little chunk is in holding that sign up because it's got to be so high.
Yeah.
So it's not, that's why it's a little more money too.
They no longer do 12 millimeter. What that means is that they're talking about the LEDs, how many you have, how close they are together. You can go 16 millimeter or 8 and 10 millimeter. The smaller the millimeter, the better it looks. In any case, they are now on the state approved list. So they're a provider. He's going to send me more information. He's going to update the information. So I'll be sending it to you guys as soon as I get it. But he talked about some of the scheduling features they have. You can put a lot of stuff on it. You can schedule it so that at bus time, you can send a reminder, hey, remember school's in session, please be safe, and just have it running when the buses are going and that type of thing. So we're progressing with that as well.
Greg, does Amity do advertisements from businesses?
I didn't ask Troy that. I do not think so. I actually, I was willing to leave the house and drive to Amity. I went down to Amity and took a picture of it, and I didn't notice any business advertising. Where is it? It's right outside their municipality.
Oh, okay.
On Weavertown Road.
Maybe I'll check it out tomorrow during lunch.
I believe we're exempt from that color thing too. That doesn't pertain to that.
Doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
So in any case, theirs was pretty plain Jane, but it gets the information out.
Yeah.
So, hopefully next meeting I'll have some better numbers.
Hey, Greg, I just got a text from a resident that so at least one person's watching to take a look at Daktronics for the digital display.
Daktronics?
Daktronics.
Ask the resident if they can email me.
Okay.
The phone number.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Very good. Very good update on I think both the newsletter and certainly the signage. Any further comments, Laurie, or?
One thing I will say is on our website, so it'll be great now. I actually just got an email right before I signed on here, so I think we may be good to go earlier than I thought with connecting the back end of the mailing list. But just so people know, on our website, when you use the box, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense before, but if you put your email in there, you can subscribe specifically to pages on our website for updates, so you'll know like when we post the agenda or if we make a change to something that you're interested in. So just so people know that is another feature that people can sign up for too, to make sure they're not missing information. But yeah, we're excited about the monthly newsletter. I agree with John. We're not looking to, I'm certainly not looking, and Greg and I have talked about this, we're not looking to send out an overabundance of information, but it would be great to be able to communicate to people more frequently than the current capability we have with our paper newsletter.
Yeah, we just can't cry wolf. That's the only thing I was concerned with. But nice job to Greg and yourself for all the work you guys did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Update on the Reading Country Club Clubhouse Committee.
Do we have that letter, Laurie?
I can pull it up.
Yeah, so I talked again with Chef Keith Taylor, and he sent us the engagement letter. And basically, for him to do a feasibility study, I think it was $5,500, which he would pretty much take a look at every aspect of the potential for Reading Country Club, the clubhouse, in terms of food and beverage. Go ahead, John.
I talked to Keith as well, and what you said, Greg. good conversation. He's excited. He's, I think, a really good, top-notch guy that he's done Disney. His resume is really impressive. I know Joe looked at the website a little bit, so I think it's a good first step.
Yeah, I did. I went in and did some research. It's definitely an impressive resume. Did a lot of big events too, so it's again too. It's hard to really dig into exactly what the whole engagement would be, but he certainly this gentleman certainly qualified to be able to look at the restaurant facility and say whether or not it would work.
He's going to get us numbers, which is important for all of us.
Yeah. For me, I mean, the issue here, as we said, we're going through the agenda and talking about business critical and time sensitive. Some of it is opportunity as well. I mean, Chef, from the research, I mean, extremely knowledgeable guy. I can just imagine if things get back to full steam and he's going to be busy, and him coming back and saying, all right, I don't have the time to do this. So yeah, I worry about, losing the opportunity to get someone with his expertise to actually do this evaluation.
Yeah, it's a good point, Dave.
Well, I'll make a motion to engage him for a feasibility study for the amount of $5,500.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, authorized background check for the cost not to exceed $3,000. There wasn't a lot of description on there. We couldn't add it at the time. I still can't add a whole lot to this, but I can tell everyone that, we're making very good progress in the search for a township manager. We've interviewed some very good candidates so far. This background check is part of the hiring process that we feel needs to be completed. So we're likely a few weeks away from finalizing a formal offer to be considered, but this is part of that process, and we need to go through this step to get to the end line. But very encouraged by the candidates that have come forward. So that's kind of the background I have.
I'll make a motion to authorize the background check not to exceed $3,000.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Very good, thank you. Department reports. Clarence, multi-hat, interim highway department.
All right, well, it's a little bit on parks and highway. We are working down at Farming Ridge, extending and replacing sidewalk. There's a lot of bad sidewalk down there, and there is about 80, 100 feet that was never completed from the time the development was built. So we're finishing that. It goes to the park itself. That's getting done. We're working on that. We got a couple guys redoing picnic tables, getting them ready for the summer. We have we're doing some basin work and some pipe removal. We replaced a couple pipes. We also leveled off some ground and planted some grass down at Pineland Park. They finished street sweeping today. Actually, I think he has about 2 hours tomorrow to finish up, but then he'll be done. Other than that, we're doing a little repair work over at the country club. So they're staying busy. We got a lot of work to do, and May 4th is the day they're moving in to pave underneath the culvert at East Neversink. Woo! Put it on your calendar.
Hey, Clarence, a question on the Farming Ridge stuff.
Yeah.
I had a resident call me today about the tennis courts.
Yeah.
Are we doing? I forget. Are we doing anything, or just making it a parking lot?
Nope. We're going to fix the one up. The other one right now is a parking lot until you guys or whoever decides what they want to do with it. Right now, it'll be just extra parking because they're way short of parking down there. They park up during soccer games. They fill up Ritter Road both sides.
Yeah, I referee soccer there, and I sometimes have to park far away.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And even that little parking lot isn't going to help, but it's something. We're going to fix up the one tennis court for now, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
And I know I was talking to Mike about making it a pickleball court.
Yeah.
Pickleball is like a big thing that it's growing. It's for more older crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Can we line it for pickleball?
You can line it, John. That's what most tennis courts do. They put the separate lines in, so so you can play either one.
Either tennis or
yep.
Can we line it for pickleball, Clarence?
Yeah, it had, because once we have there's a small section in that one tennis court needs to be a little bit of repair work, and then it should be resurfaced. Yeah, you can do that.
It's a good idea.
We've talked a lot about pickleball. That was another hot topic in that survey, actually. Lorraine Hollow is one of the courts down there is lined for pickleball, and we also had something that we talked about in the grant applications that we talked about at the last meeting. That's in our plans as well.
Yeah, it's like old people tennis, so I think it'd be a good thing for the older community.
Well, what do you consider old, John?
Go there.
Back off, man.
No comment.
Probably John's age.
And Clarence, if I could just, we also have unfortunately extended or extended our closures of the pavilions and the Dunn Community Center through the end of May, and we're just following along with what the governor is recommending, and that's also in line with what Berks County and other surrounding municipalities are doing. So I'm keeping a close eye on that. I'm hoping we can open back up soon, but we want to make sure that we don't jump the gun and
just about everyone had canceled anyway, so it really.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been
but
most people
closed till the end.
Yeah.
Same way with the restrooms and stuff at the parks for now. Anyway, we'll keep them closed because there's just no way you could keep them clean enough and safe enough for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And our goal is to we want people to be able to get outside, but we need to be discouraging as much as possible gatherings. And if we start opening the bathrooms, and that's going to send the message that the parks are open. And of course, if people are social distancing and they're not using the equipment and they're not gathering under the pavilions, it's okay for people to be there in the green space, but we're trying to keep people safe.
And Laurie, I mean, quick question. I mean, you have a network, I mean, talking from Muhlenberg down to Amity and what they're doing and everyone coordinating kind of dates of opening or?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk with almost all of the local Berks County Parks and Rec, my counterparts here. I've also been included we've really all been expanding, so I've been included on messages with departments in Montgomery County, and statewide we've been having bi-weekly conference calls to keep everybody up to date with what's going on in the state. So I'm really getting a lot of information, which is helping us to make our decisions. So I should have another one of those coming up because the next topic, and I'll have some information for the board by the next meeting. I'm still collecting data. No one's really made a call yet on summer programs. So we're kind of holding out and waiting to see, but in the very near future, we're going to have to make a call because at some point we get into a situation where if we wait too long, there are commitments that have to be made and money that needs to be spent. So by the next meeting, I'll have some information for us to have a discussion on that.
Great. Thank you.
And the only other thing I have is just before I came in here, I talked to Brian, actually, and as everybody knows, I guess the golf courses are opening. So he's good through this week through Friday, but then he wants to start bringing people in, his part-timers. So just to letting you know, he will bring starting them up after some of them for the weekend, and then after that it'll almost be back to normal again as far as operating for mowing and all the other stuff. But he's good for this week yet.
Okay, and I'm sure Derek is going to need, people to.
Right, yeah, obviously, that includes him too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw the grass was pretty long, so I'm sure he has a lot of work this week.
Yeah, it's not gonna get a lot mowed either with all the rain they want, so.
Yeah. So that is encouraging, yeah. So for everyone that didn't see that announcement, May 1st, I think golf courses, marinas, and something.
Private campgrounds
were allowed to open. So I think I heard, Derek was also, similar to the parks, checking with all the other courses in the area and kind of monitoring what's going on and keeping an eye on that situation. Very good. Thanks, Clarence.
Yep.
Joe, engineering?
We're proceeding with the projects, the Butter Lane Culvert. We did reach out to Mount Penn Borough Water Authority. Their consultant did complete the design for the water line relocation to facilitate our new culvert. That information has been completed and that'll be incorporated in our contract specs. Their solicitor is also in touch with Sam's office to finalize the reimbursement agreement. Once that's finalized, we'll be in a position to present the project to the board for a motion to advertise. We're hoping to advertise in June so that we can have construction take place this summer. All the utility companies have been in line. We've been in touch with Verizon and UGI, and they're on notice that this project is moving along. So hopefully I'll have more final information with the reimbursement agreement and so forth within the next meeting or so. And we did begin on Hilldale Storm Sewer. We'll be proceeding with that project so that will be ready to also advertise and bid. Hopefully a lot of contractors we're finding out there being some relief is being provided to them with this May 1st from the governor. So we're hoping to get some good bids in. I know they've been in the same situation as we have. Things slowed down, but I think hopefully after May 1st things will start picking up and we'll be able to proceed and get some of these projects done this year. So that's all I have for at the moment. If anybody has any questions.
Very good. No, thanks, Joe. And you're going to be there for the ribbon cutting ceremony down on May 4th.
Yeah, yes. They did a nice job. Unfortunately, with the pandemic that occurred, Clarence, we went out and looked at what they had prepared for the paving, and everything looks real well. I'll be happy when this is paved, finally over with. I think it would have been done a little earlier, but unfortunately, with the governor's orders, it really did restrict a lot of contractors to more life essential emergencies or work. So it's good to see that'll be taken care of.
So you think it'll be open then May 4th?
Well, I hope so.
Begin May 4th.
I would think, Clarence, 2 days for the base and the wearing, or they think they might be able to get both down?
2 or 3 days at the most.
Assuming
they actually moved out to Denver, Colorado because they couldn't work here. Or they would have done this over a month ago.
So depending on the rain could delay it a bit if it continues to rain.
Be a factor.
Yeah, the forecast doesn't look too favorable, but hopefully next week it'll be much dry and sunny.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Chief?
Not much. I just wanted to thank the public and the businesses of the township for their overwhelming support of the police department during this pandemic. A significant portion of the essential PPE equipment that we need to keep our officers safe, we received from donations, from N95 masks to the homemade cloth masks, to disposable surgical masks, Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer. All these things have been donated to the police department. They're in short supply right now, so everything that we get, we put to good use. And I just wanted to thank everyone for their words of support and for the support of the police department.
Thank you, Chief.
Excellent. Thanks, Chief. Sam, legal.
Nothing, just to announce that there were 2 executive sessions on personnel, one on April 16th and one on April 20th. And that's all I have, Dave. Do you have any questions?
No. Excellent. Thanks, Sam. Any public comments on non-agenda items?
No, we did not receive any.
Okay. Supervisor reports. Michelle?
Me?
Sure.
I have none. I just hope everyone still continues to stay safe and be safe. And I want to thank the police, the fire, the ambulance, and everyone who's out there working to take care of us right now. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, second what Michelle said, thank you to everyone that's helping support us as we're stuck in our homes. But the other thing is, just to piggyback what Dave and Clarence said, the golf course was given the green light by the state this afternoon, effective May 1st to reopen. There will be restrictions. We're going to post them. I believe, Lori, we're going to get them on the website as soon as they're available.
Yes.
And then Derek will also send an email blast out to all those. So there will be, obviously it's not going to be business as usual, but we do know there's going to be things like one person to a cart and probably no rakes and things like that. But all the specifics will be posted, and we'll be happy to have the course back open again. That's it.
Excellent. Thanks. John?
Just a note, Will, I did cancel the fireworks for May 16th for May Days due to the social distancing and COVID stuff. So there'll be no fireworks May 16th. So there'll be maybe something in the summer depending on how everything goes. So I'll give update there once we get that confirmed. And then just a shout out again to what Michelle said, the first responders, fire, police, everybody that's working hard, as well as the administration who's working really hard during these challenging times, and our board who continues to have executive sessions and continue to progress the township in these times. So just a shout out to everybody to stay safe.
Thanks, John. And Greg?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone as well. I also want to give an update on the food pantry. They had 2 gives in April. They hit 384 different households, which is a total of 576 families. Now you got to realize that generally they were hitting 190 a month prior to this. And here's a real significant number for you, 169 new households. So people are definitely hurting. I am on the steering committee with them, but I'm really not involved in the planning of this, but I really want to compliment them. And again, Clarence and his staff for all the help to, they got a lot of cars through very quickly out at the Promenade. I do want to apologize to the group because, at some point I should have brought up asking for any fees to be waived for the food pantry to use the township space. I understand there was an issue, and I certainly don't want there to be an issue. So I would ask that someone make a motion about that. I don't feel comfortable doing that.
I'll make a motion to waive any fees for the past and the future for the Exeter Food Pantry to use the Promenade for their food drives.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And gifts.
And gifts.
Yep, thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just get the wording on that motion one more time?
I'll make a motion to waive any past and any future use of the Promenade with the Exeter area food pantry and gifts for using the Promenade for their food drives.
Thank you.
And just for reference, any expense, like we had to make some doors and some hours up there, that'll all come under the COVID-19 emergency stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, just make sure we're keeping track of everything.
Keeping track of all that stuff, so that'll all get put in there. So
I think, did you second, Dave?
I second that, Laurie. And yeah, just as a further comment, I just want to commend, everyone involved in that. I mean, I think a lot of families are being helped through this effort. People are putting in the extra time, donating more food, and it's getting out there to the right places. So I think it's great that anything administration, township, supervisors, the public can do to help those that are in need. I think this is a great time and a very valiant effort on that part. So thanks, everyone. Any other comments?
We can vote, Dave. We can take the vote, Dave.
No, just agree with everything. That's a great thing to do.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Excellent.
Laurie, I'm abstaining.
Okay. Thanks, Greg, for spearheading. Anything else, Greg?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Now at the end, my comments, basically, I'm going to echo what a lot of other people said. Thanks for the remote working, the setting up of this, our administrative staff, our highway department, our police department, fire department, everyone for working under these abnormal times and getting so much done, things that need to keep continuing. So I just want to say stay safe, everyone, and wish everyone well. That's all I have.
Oh, we have some stuff for you guys to sign.
Okay, Clarence, it's a good reminder. So
It's the same. Yeah, Joe, you want to text me when you leave the building?
Yeah, okay.
that works well. I'll make a motion to adjourn the
one
supervisor meeting.
Okay, one, John. So Clarence, there'll be the same spot, like in the admin area, that we can stop and sign tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll go when Joe leaves.
Okay. Very good.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.